Hello, family members. How are you doing today? I've got a big topic on my mind, and it's one I've wanted to discuss for some time, but it's a very complex topic that raises a lot of more than even mixed feelings, I think, for a lot of people. And that topic is Christianity. Um, As an aromantic, agosexual, pan-oriented, polyamorous woman, I don't really fit in the normal church expectations, to say the least. I always knew marrying and having children and all of that was just not going to be a thing for me. Raising kids, sure. Having kids, eh. But yeah. So, but I was raised in the United Methodist Church. For people who aren't familiar, that's a fairly liberal denomination. I remember when I was a kid, I used to go. We had the summer youth conference every year at the local college, which happened to be Wesleyan Methodist College, and private school, and like you'd get to stay in the dorms and eat in the cafeteria and go to different like meetings and study groups and stuff and in the various college classes. When you were a middle schooler, high schooler, that was like the coolest thing. And we as a conference, as the West Virginia United Methodist Youth Conference, voted to include queer people, be inclusive of queer people. Now, this was back in the mid 90s. And boy, did the adults all swoop in and be like, you can't do that. That's against the church rules. You're not allowed to have this rule that's contradictory to what we have. And it's just like wild to think about that. Like, it was obvious even then that liberal Christians, millennials who grew up in liberal Christian denominations, were not going to be the homophobes that their parents and grandparents had been, even if they weren't queer, which a lot of us turned out to be queer too, by the way. So, yeah. But being Christian and having it be something that has been undoubtedly a very valuable part of my life, I have to live with the knowledge when I am in queer spaces that my experience is not in any way universal, and that a lot of people who are queer have had very negative experiences because of Christianity. That it's caused them trauma or family separation or all sorts of things. And so for some people, Christianity can be a trigger, a very understandable trigger for all sorts of awful emotions, flashbacks, nightmares, whatnot. That's my dog. Clearly, I need to gather up my recycling. He decided to lay in my pile of water bottles. Okay. Thanks, Casey. Anyway. So that's one thing that leads to my complex feelings about Christianity. Not my own faith, mind you, but Christianity in general. And another major factor is the way that so many people say that they are Christians but then do things that don't seem very Christ-like to me. And I feel like it is a very slippery slope to start telling somebody that the way that they're experiencing their Christian faith is wrong and mine is better or more right or more correct or more moral or more valid or anything. But there's a line, and there are people who have crossed that line and gone so far past that line that I feel like I have a moral obligation to call that out, you know? For example, prosperity gospel. Convincing the rich or convincing the poor to give their money to the church, which is rich, to live an extravagant, rich lifestyle and say you're a pastor, to have a mansion as a parsonage. Are those Christ-like things? I think if Christ went into that church, he would be flipping tables. But it's also not my place to judge those people on their faith. I can't say whether or not their faith is sincerely held. But I can say that their actions are in no way Christ-like and condemn the actions. But that's a complicated thing to do. And so I'm always dealing with these complicated feelings of frustrated anger at the way that people use faith and the name of my Lord, the Lord I believe in such cruel and unbelievable ways. I don't think it really sunk into me, honestly, until I had a friend who was a Jehovah's Witness or had grown up in the Jehovah's Witness church. And in her like late 20s or something, she got pregnant out of wedlock. And her family just cut her off. They would still, kind of like secretly give her some resources and help her out, in like financial or housing ways or things like that. But, they shunned her socially for at least a while. And seeing that happen kind of blew my mind a little bit, I know a lot of queer people, but most of the queer people I know, if I was around when, they came out or were establishing themselves, as young adults, they had affirming parents or they weren't out yet. And so I didn't really get to see the brutality of letting somebody's interpretation, your pastor's interpretation of the Bible and Christianity to deny your child. I always knew I would not be a biological parent. It just never felt like it was the right path for me. But I always felt like I would have non-biological children. I assumed I would adopt, but with my chronic depression and being aromantic, I just never felt like I could provide the stability that a child would need as a single parent. However, I've been very active in the lives of my godchildren, and I love them so dearly, so passionately. I couldn't imagine that they would do anything that would ever stop me from loving them. I might, if they were to do horrible things, might have to say cut them off, but I would still always love them. Even if they were murderer and went to prison, I'd probably still write them letters or whatever. I couldn't stop loving them. I couldn't stop caring for them no matter what. And they're not even my biological children. I only, get to have them very infrequently, like I get to have my eldest goddaughter in the summers and very occasionally get short visits, otherwise with the rest. And my goodness, it's just absolutely galling to me, the idea of hearing all the time that while you're growing up and when you're in church, that God so loved the world that he gave his only son. The world, not just parts of the world, all the world. And think that it would be okay to be judgmental to others because of any characteristics, whether you assume that they've chosen it or if it's an intrinsic characteristic. And then, especially here in America, all men are supposedly created equal, right? But there's always people who want to create these little cliques, these little clubs, to make everyone feel like they're better than them, or to make themselves feel like they're better than they are. I don't know. It just frustrates me because I feel like it's difficult to call out this horrible, heretical behavior in a way that isn't hypocritical. But it's literally killing people. It's destroying families. And my faith has gotten me through an awful lot. When I had cancer and I didn't know what was going to happen, it was such a comfort to me to have my faith. I've always been very fascinated with the book of Job, with the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That's always been very meaningful to me. All things are ephemeral. Nothing lasts forever. But at the end of the day, the Lord is good. And the Lord will take care of me. And I've always felt that. And that's gotten me through a lot of really tough times in my life. Come here, Kim. Come here. Oh, she gets restless sometimes when I'm emotional, so that might be this. I don't know. But it's so hard to know that something that is that meaningful, that has made my life that much better, that has helped me through mental health crises and tragedy and tough times, has been used as a weapon to harm others and is being associated with harmful rhetoric and bigotry and all sorts of things that I feel are so antithetical to the teachings of my faith. So that's the complicated feeling that I have when I think about Christianity and being queer. Both things are huge parts of my identity. When I was kind of plotting this video, I asked my friends what they thought about some of the ideas I'd had for a title. And I had originally suggested Confessions of a Queer Christian. And my one friend, Katrina, said to me, I think you should do Confessions of a Christian Queer, because that way Christian is describing queer. And I thought about it, and really, yeah, she's right, because my queerness is intrinsic. It would be there whether or not I had been exposed to the Christian faith. The Christian faith may be a big part of my life, but it isn't something that I was born with. Whereas, my identity, who I am, is. And so, while I have sort of split loyalties, and, what some people would like to say socially, I don't think I really do. I feel like Christianity accommodates and flows with, and is part of my queer identity, I feel like maybe people are gonna think I'm a bit silly on this, but I genuinely feel like the Lord created asexual and aromantic people because it's important for the community to have childless adults or unmarried adults who can support other families. And that's kind of what I've done with my friend and my goddaughters, is I get to be a spare, bonus parent to those kids. And if I had my own family, if I'd been, heteronormative, would I have had the time or the energy or the effort to do that? It's an old cliche, the lesbian aunt, the gay uncle, but, those are real things. Like, I think my grandma used to always say that the dear Lord loves wonderful variety. And I think that that's true. I believe that he loves the variety that he created. And so I believe that we are part of that Christian community, not some sort of weird mythical thing that's separate. I believe I'm the way I am because my Lord created me the way he did, and he does not make mistakes. And I guess maybe if they believe in the Lord who made me like I am by accident, maybe they really don't believe in the same Lord as me. So maybe that's the answer at the end of the day. Maybe that's how I can speak to their hypocrisy without becoming a hypocrite myself. I don't know. I hope that anyone who happens to watch this who is not Christian or has complicated or difficult feelings about Christianity knows that their well-being is more important to me than shows of my faith. But I did feel like I needed to articulate this for other queer Christians and for other Christians who are not queer. So please, I beg your indulgence after this one. Well, I apologize for the dog interruptions, but thank you for listening to me. I hope you have a most wonderful day. Auntie loves you. Bye.